He's got Pack Rat, Master of Waves, Blood Baron of Vizkopa, and Night Veil Spectre. I think those are the top 4 creatures in Standard.
You can argue that. You could definitely argue that. Maybe Tidebinder Mage could get... Never mind.
You think so?
No.
Cloudfin Raptor in that argument?
Give those beatdowns.
His deck is sort of got a little bit of a devotion, sort of got a little bit of control, sort of got a little bit of mid-range. It's just a good stuff deck.
Yeah.
I did a deck tech with him earlier, and so we should be able to see that by the end of the day as we get underway here against Andrew Kellog, who's on Orzhov mid-range, the deck that got second place last weekend in the hands of Brennan DeCandio. He is on the play, and he's going to have a turn 2 Pack Rat against Gerard's. Comes into play tapped, Scryland.
We'll see if Fabiano can find an answer to this. I don't think his deck has a ton of answers to a Pack Rat. He does have a couple copies of Devour Flesh. He's got 1 Hero's Downfall. He has a copy of Faraway, but you know he's going to play a Pack Rat of his own, and so now the race is on.
Yeah, being behind in the Pack Rat race isn't great.
We saw it a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Chris Van Meter played a little bit earlier. He had a turn 2 Pack Rat. His opponent had a turn 2 Pack Rat on the draw, and Van Meter had a Devour Flesh in his hand that he could cast, but he just, played his third land, just activated Pack Rat every single turn of the game, and that was good enough to get it done, as the Pack Rat who is on the draw oftentimes is unable to get the job done.
Yeah, you're going to need probably 2 kill spells in 1 turn. You're going to need 2 2-mana kill spells on turn 4, like a Farika's Cure plus Devour Flesh to be able to take care of it on the draw. We'll see if Gerard is able to take care of it here.
Yeah,
as Andrew Kellog is going to activate the Pack Rat on turn 3.
There's no guarantee that's even going to get it done either. That's the tough part, is when you're on the draw underneath the Pack Rat. I don't know if he has a card like Detention Sphere, which he does have 4 of those. It's kind of awkward to have to Detention Sphere your own Pack Rat away, but it's better than losing.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gerard does have a better chance of beating a Pack Rat versus Pack Rat draw on the draw, because he has those 4 Detention Spheres. Unfortunately, it's also going to get rid of his own.
No, that's not the first time that you're going to see Gerard nibbling on that hoodie.
Yeah, that is not the face of a man who likes his spot.
But it could be a tasty hoodie.
It could be.
So there's that.
So Gerard does not have white mana just yet. That is the splash, however, so he doesn't really need it until he needs to drop Blood Baron or Elspeth or Detention Sphere, as we previously mentioned. And instead, he's going to go with Night Veil Spectre to try and fight the game on a different axis.
This is going to be interesting to kind of watch here, if Night Veil Spectre, how much this is going to be able to actually change some things. A lot of the time, you just see the Pack Rat players just making Pack Rats, but I mean, as you mentioned, maybe he's just trying to take a different route to try to win the game. I don't know if he's going to be able to win the game unless he draws a Detention Sphere. That's the thing. Now, he might be lulling Kellogg into, discard a bunch, and I'll chump block a couple times, then, all right, D-Sphere, and you've discarded all your actual cards, and I can win the game. That might be, the strategy he's trying to employ here.
It looks like he's going to throw this Pack Rat in front of one of those Pack Rats, the token, as a matter of fact.
It feels like a Detention Sphere to me.
Yeah, this feels like a Detention Sphere at this point. Andrew is going to discard one of his cards to make another Pack Rat, and possibly even activate a Mutavault, depending on if he has a Thoughtseize or not. He doesn't see the white mana out of Gerard's deck, so he certainly doesn't expect Detention Sphere on the next turn.
Yeah, the one thing here is, Gerard's probably gotten a pretty big edge over the course of the day if his opponent's not really having an idea what he does. His deck is kind of, off the cuff. He's got some weird cards in his deck that you wouldn't expect to see side by side. Again, Pack Rat and Master of Waves is a prime example of that. He's playing an Esper deck that doesn't have Sphinx's Revelation in it, which seems like you're breaking a rule. It's like a sin to not have Sphinx's Revelation when you have access to white and blue mana. But he's not playing those cards. He's sitting at 7-1, so it's obviously working for him. But I'm sure that over the course of this day, as he's playing against Kellogg, he might be able to set some traps that Kellogg walks into.
Absolutely. I was asking Gerard why he wasn't playing Sphinx's Revelation, because it's not like Gerard doesn't like that card.
Mm-hmm.
He has played it a lot in his history with Return to Ravnica cards, and the argument is it doesn't play well with Pack Rat. You want to be playing your lands with Sphinx's Revelation. You don't want to be playing your lands with Pack Rat.
So basically what he's saying is that Pack Rat greater than sign Sphinx's Revelation.
That's pretty much what he said, yes. As we see, Hallowed Fountain comes into play untapped for Gerard Fabiano, and Andrew Kellogg must be thinking, oh dear. But it's only a Jace Architect of Thought that's going to tick up.
So that's going to tick up. It's going to make the rats a little bit smaller. It looks like Night Veil Spectre is going to be on chump blocking duty to try to maybe save the Jace, and then maybe the Jace tries to minus to try to find a D-Sphere. It's an interesting line here by Gerard. He's definitely in some trouble.
Yeah, the plus doesn't even necessarily save it, as those Pack Rats could theoretically be 5/5s this turn. So if he attacks all out on the Jace, it's not even going to save it. It will fog for a turn, though. which will give Gerard another draw step.
I mean, there's confusion on our end on what he's up to. So what do you think Andrew's thinking right now? It's just like, okay, I don't understand that at all. You played Nightveil Spectre last turn, but you're not going to attack with it. And you have white mana in your deck, and you're playing a Jace, but you can't really save it. So what are you trying to do here, man? I don't understand.
Andrew's decided he's done thinking and points at Gerard and says, these are coming at you, buddy.
That's a good place to send some pack rats.
So three 3/3s coming into the red zone. Currently 3/3s. They can go upwards of 5/5s this turn with those 2 Mutavaults.
But don't forget,
in play.
Jace's activation.
Yep.
So there'll be 4/5s if he does all of that. So right now, 3 2/3s coming in.
Absolutely.
So now they're about to become 3 4s, potentially 4 5s with the Mutavault activation. But I actually do like what Gerard is doing here. He's kind of making Andrew discard a lot of his cards, and then if he does rip off a detention sphere, maybe things are going to break the way he wants them to. Obviously, there's no guarantee of this, and I think he realizes he's in some trouble, so he has to get a little bit creative.
Yep. And so it looks like Andrew is going to make them 4 5s. So Gerard will fall to 4 life as the Nightveil Spectre hits the graveyard. But if he does find a detention sphere, things completely shift around. All those pack rats go away, and Gerard still has a Jace in play if he's able to find the detention sphere.
The big problem here, though, is that he does have 2 Mutavaults to contend with there and within the lands, and this is part of the reason that Mutavault is a great Magic card. Taps for mana, pumps up the pack rats, gets to attack later on in the course of the game. So while you might be from under the primary threat, which are the pack rats, the Mutavault is actually what's going to finish you off. And in this case, there's 2 of them.
2 of them means 4 life. Guess what Gerard's at? So he still has to find probably a 2-mana elimination spell as opposed to another pack rat for chump blocking duty, which I guess is an option. That's not really an ideal scenario. But it's going to be Detention Sphere and something else, not just a Detention Sphere, as he flips over the top of his deck to reveal not a Detention Sphere. That's a Nightveil Spectre, a Blood Baron of Vizkopa, and a comes into play tapped Scryland.
It's very strange, Gerard's composition of his deck. And if I'm Andrew Kellogg here, assuming that I don't have a good idea of what Gerard's playing and all of those things, Gerard's going to go down to 2, he's going to play a Blood Baron and pass. Assuming I don't really have a great idea what my opponent's playing, I would be horribly confused right now. I would put my opponent on like an Esper control deck, but maybe starting Pack Rat and Nightveil Spectre to get an edge in the mirror or against mono black, and he's got Blood Barons, and I just don't know.
Sure.
Is what I would be thinking right now. I just don't know what he's up to and what he's doing. His deck is so weirdly composed, and the way that Gerard has played, it's like you're willing to just throw away your Pack Rat on turn 3? All right, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of Gerard's edge today has come from, I don't know what's going on.
See, Kellogg just discarded a Thoughtseize, and he was going to win this turn almost no matter what. I would have loved to fire that thing off. Let me see what's in your hand.
Some more information.
Yeah, what do you have in your hand? He'd see, I can't get a good look at what's in Fabiano's hand, but maybe it would glean some information about how he wants to sideboard here, because basically what he did that game is you saw a Pack Rat, a Nightveil Spectre, a Jace, and a Blood Baron, which are cards that could conceivably be in an Esper deck, even though this is not a traditional one. And all Kellogg did on his side is just play a Pack Rat and activate it every turn. So I'm going to be really interested to see how he sideboards in this game.
Yep, Andrew Kellogg takes game 1 with 7/7 Pack Rats.
Tough
as
guy.
It turns out by the end of the game.
Real tough guy. Drew a rat every turn.
There you go.
Must be nice.
It's very nice when you're able to draw Goblin War Chiefs every turn.
Yeah.
Or actually, it's Goblin Marshals, or the ones that pump with no other ability, I guess. But
why do we have to bring goblins into this? They're so bad now.
Sorry.
They're so just not good. If you have my token, you just rip it up. It's just not worth anything now.
We can move on.
All right.
How about we move on to the sideboards? We're going to take a look at Gerard's sideboard first. He has access to Duress, Gainsay, Obzedat, Elspeth, Lifebane Zombie, Doomblade, Domestication, Supreme Verdict, and Glare of Heresy. I would almost certainly expect the Supreme Verdicts to come in, having seen a Blood Baron hit the graveyard as well, in addition to the Pack Rats, just have more outs to those not really unanswerable, but very difficult to deal with threats. I suppose Domestication's a possibility.
I like it in this matchup. It depends on, how familiar Fabiano is with the Orzhov midrange that they got second last weekend in Orlando, because you do have some targets in Pack Rat and Nightveil Spectre.
Gerard also has access to Duress to be able to take care of random bits and pieces that might be able to take out Nightveil Spectres, but not exactly the sideboard that we typically see out of the mono black decks, for example, which have really hard-hitting sideboard cards in this matchup, like Dark Betrayal.
Yeah. On Kellogg's side, now the thing about his deck list is, and this could maybe throw Fabiano for a loop depending on how well-informed he is on the format. When we think about black-white, this Orzhov mid-range deck, initially, now, we think of Brennan DeCandio's second place finish. Previously, we would think about the Grand Prix Dallas winning deck list, but it's kind of, what have you done for me lately? DeCandio getting second place last week, he's using the list that we've seen online a little bit, and if people are just kind of in copy-pasting mode, they're going to copy-paste that list as opposed to the list from Dallas. The list that Kellog is playing is much closer to the Dallas list because DeCandio was starting Nightveil Specters. Here, Kellog is playing Pack Rat, Desecration Demon, and Blood Baron, and so there are no Nightveil Specters. So you mentioned Domestication, where, it would be kind of interesting. There will be 7 targets, 4 Pack Rats, and 3 Nightveil Specters. Well, that's not the case here. So actually, Domestication seems kind of poor. That being said, his sideboard, 3 Lifebane Zombies, 3 Obsidian Ghost Council, 2 Doomblade, 2 Dark Betrayal, 2 copies of Duress, and then a couple one-ofs in Sin Collector, Glare of Heresy, and a Ratchet Bomb. Now, this is where things get a little more interesting, too, because Kellog has 15 cards to kind of assess against a deck where he really, again, does not have a great idea of what he's playing against. So I feel like he's going to do some very general sideboarding of, okay, what cards do I think are good against this mishmash of cards my opponent's playing? I think Obsidat's going to fit right in there. I think that Dark Betrayal is going to fit right in there because he saw Pack Rat and Nightveil Specter. Obviously he can't target Jace, can't target Blood Baron, but it's probably good enough. I wouldn't be surprised to see either Duress and or Sin Collector come in here because you don't really know what your opponent's up to. You think you have a pretty good idea, but at the same time, Gerard's deck is very strange, as you guys will see during our deck tech later today. It's not your usual Esper deck. Glare of Heresy would almost automatically come in had he drawn that Detention Sphere. Now it probably rides the pine.
Yeah, same with the Ratchet Bomb.
Yes. So, we'll see what happens with the sideboarding again, because in tournaments, and you've played a lot of them as if I have, so most people at home, when you're at the top tables of a tournament, you start to look around.
Yeah.
Okay, I know who Gerard Fabiano is. Let me take a little look-ski-poo of what he's up to over here. So, you don't know if Kellogg has been watching a match from Gerard's when he finished early after pack-ratting someone, and he says, oh, a Detention Sphere. If I get paired against him, he's 7-1. I guess I'll bring that Glare in. So it's going to be very telling, if we do see Glare come in when he didn't see any white cards, or if we see Ratchet Bomb come in, even though there's not really a great reason to bring it in this matchup, and see how he does sideboard.
Yeah, Gerard did pick up an early loss in this tournament, and Andrew is 7-0-1, as you see in the records. So he was probably not sitting near Gerard for the beginning of this tournament.
Yeah, but at the same time, Gerard Fabiano is a big Magic personality.
Of course.
He's moving up the ranks after an early loss. He's, 4-1, he's 5-1, he's 6-1. All right, I guess I'll, I finished my match early. I'll take a look at what Gerard Fabiano's up to, and you can glean a little bit of information that way. Again, I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm looking a little ahead in the future. Let's say Fabiano wins this game. Through whatever means he wins the game with. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kellogg go immediately back to his sideboard and say, all right, I misidentified what he was up to. Let me change this.
Gerard Fabiano leads with Temple of Deceit and Scries to the bottom. Andrew Kellogg leads with Temple of Silence and Scries to the bottom as well. Gerard Fabiano, let's see if he has the turn 2 Pack Rat to be able to apply some pressure. Put the shoe on the other foot, as it were. Looks like he's just got a Temple of Silence himself and scrying to the bottom again. And Andrew Kellogg, spoiler alert, I saw he does have a Pack Rat as well as an untapped land, but his third land is an Orzhov Guildgate, so we'll see how he decides to proceed. He decides to go with Duress and sees Ashiok, Pack Rat, Hero's Downfall, Domestication, and 2 lands.
Yeah, see, that's what are you supposed to do?
Yeah,
what do you do
like
here? That with Duress? I mean, you can take an Ashiok, you can make a sound argument for that. You can take Hero's Downfall if there's something you want to protect. You can take Domestication because you have a Pack Rat in your hand. He's going to take Ashiok. He obviously can't take Pack Rat, but he better have an answer to a Pack Rat that's going to be coming likely this turn.
Orzhov Guildgate comes down from Andrew Kellogg, and Gerard is going to be able to untap and play the first Pack Rat, should he so choose. There's another Temple. Gerard deciding on the Scry here. Hasn't kept one on top yet. That's why he played the Scry lands.
That's true.
Guildgates.
No, don't draw any bad cards.
He kept that one on top, and there's the Pack Rat. So, how can Andrew parry back? What he's going to do is play Mutavault. He's going to play, looks like Dark Betrayal here.
Yeah,
Taking down the Pack Rat.
It's a good choice.
And also, he's just going to
No,
pass
he can't.
here.
See, he can't play Pack Rat because even though Fabiano doesn't have another blue mana, the domestication kind of blows all this up. So, it's a situation where I'm not convinced that domestication is particularly good in this matchup again because it only has 4 targets, but the targets with it are very, very good, obviously, in Pack Rat. So much so that Kellog was just like, I can't play it, go.
He also has 2 copies of that Pack Rat in his hand, and instead he's going to go with Lifebane Zombie on his next turn, not seeing a target. In fact, the only targets for Lifebane Zombie in Gerard's deck are 3 copies of Blood Baron of Viscopa, which are very good against his deck, but there's only 3 of them in the deck.
This is what we like to call the misinformation game that Gerard is playing because his deck is so strange and so unique, you can get a real edge. Now, let's just say, again, looking ahead in the future, that Gerard makes a top 8 and players have access to each other's deck list. Well, I think the game changes a lot then about what's going on. Looks like Fabiano's drawn another copy of Pack Rat here with the necessary 3 mana up, so things are going pretty good here for Gerard.
Yep, and he's also got the Night Veil Spectre for the card advantage unit engine off of Andrew's deck, and he can cast all the spells that are in Andrew's deck in addition to playing the Swamps, which he did on the last turn. In comes Lifebane Zombie, tempting Gerard to block so that he can make another token and use his kill spell to sort of 2-for-1 himself to get it off the board, but that's never going to happen.
I would just take 3.
Yeah, as would I.
Yeah. I'm happy going to
but
17.
Hey, Andrew's going to try.
I mean, it's free damage.
Absolutely.
You might as well take it.
And there's a Pack Rat for Andrew with 3 mana up.
But
And
this
he's
is what
gonna
we
make-
saw in the last game. This is the exact thing that we saw in the last game here. Gerard's going to put a token of himself out there. But this is what we saw in the last game. First the Pack Rat gets ahead, and they go from there. And that's exactly what he's done now. He's going to untap with Pack Rat and start to cause a lot of trouble.
And Pack Rat with a Night Veil Spectre in play means that, sure, you might be, quote-unquote, skipping your draw step, but you're getting a card off your opponent's deck. And with the composition of Andrew's deck, he gets to play all of those. So it's not like he's skipping a draw step at all. It's like he has an Underworld Connections that's not even losing him life in play.
And what you saw this turn is just a really confident attack. As far as body language is concerned and a couple other things, you see Fabiano is going to turn over a Swamp with a Night Veil Spectre, a bunch of damage is going to be dealt. We see a very different Gerard in this game as opposed to the last game, which is, a little bit more confidence. He's not underneath the Pack Rat problem, as it were. Blood Baron's going to come down now, too. So he's doing really, really well this game. You see Kellog's going to make a Pack Rat token and try to come back here, but now Blood Baron is gumming some things up. Fabiano, even though he's chosen not to make another copy of Pack Rat right now, he's coming from a lot of different angles. Blood Baron's unblockable, Night Veil Spectre's coming in the air, find a removal spell, and then you still have to deal with the Pack Rat problem.
And Andrew casts the second copy of Pack Rat from his hand, it appears, with 3 mana up, so he was able to save a mana on the Pack Rats to sort of take advantage and have slightly more, although Gerard has 6 mana as well as the Blood Baron. He decided that playing the 4/4 Blood Baron with lifelink and protection from Andrew's deck was better than making a Pack Rat there. Zvi Mauschwitz wrote a great article on when to make a Pack Rat and when not to make a Pack Rat a couple weeks ago, I guess a month ago at this point. Required reading as far as I'm concerned for the current standard format. Gerard...
The rule is you activate it all the time.
Yeah, pretty much.
See, a bunch of damage is going to come through. Gerard actually loses his Pack Rats. The question is, does he actually care about that? I guess he can domesticate a Pack Rat, and then I think Andrew might lose his, depending on how much damage is being dealt right now. Oh, or just Detention Sphere, okay.
Detention Sphere, going to remove all of the Pack Rats.
I'm telling you now, because it looks like Fabiano's going to win this game. Kellog is going to reach for his sideboard very fast after, he loses this game, because I don't think there's any coming back at this point. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him reaching for the Glare or a Ratchet Bomb or something, because now he's seen more cards from Fabiano's deck. Now, to be fair, you still don't have a good idea of what he's doing, which is who knows what.
Right. So he decides to go with Obsidian Ghost Council here. Probably can't even flicker it out here.
No, I don't think so.
No, he has to, because there's nothing he can block.
Yeah, that's true.
So, gotta hope that you're not just dead this turn, I guess. And Gerard does only have 6 power in play, so he is going to survive. He's not exactly thriving, though.
No, not at all.
Andrew will fall to 2. Gerard will go up to 20. Gerard gets another Swamp. He has an Underworld Connections in play. It's like he's drawing 3 cards a turn.
Gonna go down to 19 off of this.
You're not going to make a good living when your opponent's drawing 3 cards a turn and you're drawing 1.
He's gonna fire for Thoughtseize.
Yeah. And that's going to reveal what appears to be Lifebane Zombie and Devour Flesh. It takes the Elimination spell. deciding how else he wants to add to the board here. It's going to be domestication. Those are all of the creatures that are in play. Obsidian brings Andrew back up to 4.
It sure does. You're right. It sure does.
Not exactly where he wants to be. He draws a Thoughtseize, also not where he wants to be, and Andrew is going to be on the play for game 3. Let's see how quickly he does go to the sideboard here.
I want to see what's going to change after he cleans up all his permanents, because I think almost assuredly he has to go to his deck box here and change some things after he does shuffle.
Absolutely. Andrew Kellog, by the way, he's a local Columbus area player. I remember him from back in my PTQ days in the area. He used to play at the same comic book shop in town, Comic Town, up on Morse Road.
Okay.
He's a very solid player. Doesn't have a ton of high-level SCG Open or Grand Prix finishes, but he's a, as you know, in the Midwest, the Magic players are very solid. He's just a solid, good area player. I've played with him in many cube drafts and the like, and so not too surprised to see him here, currently undefeated in the tournament.
Just watched him go through a sideboard. He went towards the back of it because that's where the Glare of Heresy was, and he took that in. Not sure what other things are going to be coming in here, but immediately goes for the Glare of Heresy because he saw Detention Sphere. But here's the tough thing: we looked at Andrew's sideboard again: 3 Lifebane Zombie, 2 Doomblade, 3 Obsidian, 2 Dark Betrayal, 2 Duress, 1 Sin Collector, 1 Glare of Heresy, and 1 Ratchet Bomb. That particular game, Lifebane Zombie, was pretty bad.
Yes.
And it serves to probably continue to be bad because it only has 3 targets, as you mentioned, 3 Blood Barons. It can be blocked by Pack Rat. It can be blocked by Nightveil Spectre. Now, of course, it can't be blocked by Master of Waves, but who's to say Master of Waves is still in the deck? It can be taken by Domestication, not the best target, but when worst comes to worst and you have to do it, you do. So I don't think Lifebane Zombie is going to be great in this particular matchup. We'll see if he's going to leave it in. Doomblade, very poor, but he hasn't seen Master of Waves. Had he seen Master of Waves, maybe he leaves that kind of card in or sideboards it in. How good is Obsidian now that he knows what Gerard's deck is up to? Probably still okay. Still a really good card. Dark Betrayal, still good, obviously, but it only has 2 copies of those, where we've seen a lot of decks playing 3 or 4 of that card. The 2 Duress I still think are good because this card's good against Gerard's deck. Sin Collector is okay. It's not that exciting. Glare of Heresy is much better now. The Detention Sphere is coming. I think you can say the same about Ratchet Bomb. But the point I'm trying to make here is that sideboarding against a deck like this where, Gerard is playing a lot of different spells. You're not sure what his deck really is. Because a lot of the times when you're playing Magic, especially high-level Magic, when you play against an opponent, let's say, Ruben, you and I are playing, and I sit across from you and you play Temple of Silence and a Temple of Deceit. My brain's going to go, Esper. Esper control, let's do this. And that's not what Fabiano's doing. And so what your brain does is it identifies a deck, and then you play in such a way that, okay, I have played against this deck before in my testing. I've played against Esper control. It's not that tough of a matchup. I do these things and I win. And that's not actually the truth. And so this can actually come back to hurt you, and it's how Fabiano, again, may have got an edge over the course of the day as people are just like, he's playing an Esper deck. I'll bring in Gainsay for your Revelations or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, sure, that doesn't do anything.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe if Kellogg in the last game probably just sideboard like he's playing against a normal Esper deck or not. Again, he's going to sideboard in a very weird fashion because I don't think there's a correct way to sideboard against Fabiano's deck because there's a different range of things going on. You can't sideboard against a deck in, I think, an appropriate way that has access to Pack Rat, Spectre, Blood Baron, and Ashiok. Those are a wide range of cards that do a very different thing and have a very different impact on the game.
Absolutely. This is an area where Brad Nelson thrives.
Yes.
When he was talking about the Naya control deck and people would bring in Lifebane Zombies against him, and he'd reveal his hand of Anger of the Gods, Advent of the Worm, Elspeth, and then they'd go, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, I have no creatures, and I can kill that whenever I want to.
Absolutely, as we see Andrew Kellogg lead off with an Orzhov Guildgate. Shout out to Brian Brown-Duin for the Orzhov Guildgate there.
BBD, that's for you.
There you go. Gerard Fabiano deciding how he wants to go on his turn 1. Looks like he has a Watery Grave. I'm thinking that maybe he wants to Watery Grave into Thoughtseize to take out potential Pack Rats.
Yeah, depending on the contents.
16 is the thing.
But here's the thing.
He is going to do it.
Thoughtseize is that good.
It is.
That you can afford to take 4 points of damage.
And Pack Rat is also that good.
Yeah.
That he needs to get rid of it. As we see Last Breath,
oh,
Duress,
boy.
Pack Rat.
However,
Blood Baron of Vizkopa and another land.
But that land comes into play tapped.
It does. And so Gerard is going to have another turn to be able to deal with Pack Rat. He does have a lot of ways to deal with Pack Rat after sideboard with the Supreme Verdicts and the Detention Spheres and Thoughtseize and his own versions of Pack Rat.
Now, this is actually really tough here because depending on the contents of Gerard's hand, and he's going to write this hand down, let's take a look at the contents here. You've got a Duress that can actually give away Fabiano's hand, and maybe he's sandbagging a Detention Sphere or a Supreme Verdict from the sideboard that we don't know about, a pinpoint removal spell, what have you, that he wants to trap Andrew with. He has a Last Breath. Now, if Fabiano has a Pack Rat or a Night Veil Spectre, he'd like to take that Last Breath, ideally. There's 2 copies of Pack Rat. If Fabiano has 1 removal spell, you probably just want to take the other Pack Rat. The one card you don't really care about here is Blood Baron, and obviously you can't take the land. So of those 4 cards, double Pack Rat, Duress, and Last Breath, whichever card you take makes the game go in a certain course. And, you know, you'd like to just continue having the game go that way. You obviously can't stop the top of the deck, but by taking a card, you're making a pretty loud announcement of how you want the game to go and maybe what's in your hand.
Absolutely. Gerard's deck has a lot of different angles, and which card he takes is going to dictate what angle he's going to take, and he's going to take one of those Pack Rats to be able to make sure that Andrew doesn't have a source of aggression on his side of the board. Andrew finds the second untapped land on top of his deck, a Swamp.
Now, okay, this is interesting because this isn't the end of the world for Fabiano, depending on what your hand is, because Fabiano is going to see the Swamp come into play, so here's Pack Rat. All right, that's fine. I know that your third land's coming into play tapped, or at least I believe that it is right now, because I know you have Temple of Silence. So the fact that you drew 1 untapped land, yeah, that's like kind of annoying, but at the same time, you have to draw back-to-back untapped lands for me to like get punished here.
Absolutely. And Gerard has a Devour Flesh in his hand, which he is going to use here.
Okay, I like this. So, you know, by taking that first Pack Rat, it was a pretty loud signal that Gerard had a removal spell for the second Pack Rat, and it would have been an untapped land.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a Duress to see Pack Rat, Night Veil Spectre, and what appears to be 3 lands.
Yep, 2 Temple of Silences and a Hallowed Fountain.
So Andrew is going to be able to take the Pack Rat advantage here if he so chooses, especially because he has Last Breath in his hand as well.
Yep.
He does have 15 coming to play untapped lands, counting those Godless Shrines, so it's not too surprising to see that. But Andrew's going to elect to not play the Pack Rat here.
Well, his Pack Rat got taken by Thoughtseize earlier.
I thought he didn't have 2?
You know, Pack Rat got taken by Thoughtseize, Devour Flesh killed the other one.
That's right, so he doesn't have the Pack Rat here, but he does have the Last Breath. Playing the land untapped sort of shows that that he's planning on doing that and that he didn't draw another one.
So now Pack Rat's going to come in. It's obviously going to die to Last Breath. They're going to trade resources. So it's not going to be a Pack Rat game. Now it's going to be a different game about card advantage. And, you know, we might see this game be about Night Veil Spectre. Now, Andrew is actually drawing quite well here because the fact that he's drawn running lands off the top of his deck coming into play untapped, and now the Temple of Silence that he's had since the opening turns of the game, now he's only 1 land away from the Blood Baron that was in his hand from the Thoughtseize. And I said that the Blood Baron didn't matter in his hand, and realistically it really didn't. But all of a sudden, because he's drawn all of these lands off the top of his deck, now it's going to end up mattering a lot. And I can only imagine that Blood Baron is quite good against Fabiano's deck.
Yeah. He did just draw a Supreme Verdict just recently, however, and so Gerard does have an answer to 1 copy of Blood Baron. There are more than 1 copy of Blood Baron in Andrew's deck. He has 4, and I think he drew a second. And so Gerard plays the Temple of Silence and attacks with the Mutavault, doesn't have the third black or blue mana to be able to play the Night Veil Spectre as Blood Baron of Vizkopa comes into play on turn 5.
Now, Fabiano does have outs to this card, and he's going to use the Supreme Verdict to take care of the first one. And this is really difficult, too, because for Fabiano, he's obviously going to be frustrated because now another Blood Baron is going to show up. And chances are, if Fabiano doesn't cast that first Supreme Verdict, I think there's a very high likelihood that, you know, he just plays. Is this an Elspeth? Jeez, that's insane. Yeah, Elspeth's going to take care of Blood Baron.
Great one.
I was going to say there's a really good chance that he could have trapped him with the Supreme Verdict and get 2 Blood Barons for 1, but that Elspeth was actually insane there for Fabiano.
Absolutely.
A card that obviously Kellog has never seen yet.
Yeah, how could you plan for that after basically not seeing white mana game 1?
Fabiano coming in with this Mutavault, frisque.
Yeah, a little bit. Coming in, baiting that Pack Rat to try and trade with the Mutavault, which he's basically fine with at this point. Gerard's going to make 3 dudes here. There's quite the lineup he has there.
A bevy of tokens. We're going to give him some soldiers in a minute, but a bevy of tokens he's showing off here with Gab Nassif and Reed Duke.
Yep. Those are 2 Gabe Nassif tokens from different printings of the pro player cards. As he uses those for 1/1 soldiers to be able to stymie the Pack Rats for a good long while, I would say, leaving up 4 mana for whatever removal spell he happens to have in his hand.
And so there are some soldier tokens here. And we'll pass the turn back in just a moment after Watery Grave, and now a Night Veil Spectre comes into play.
getting not only presence on the board, but also a card advantage.
Yeah, now he's coming in the air. Of course, he can cast whatever spells, and Dark Betrayal is going to take care of the Spectre. So now Kellogg is cardless, and all he has is a pack rat versus an Elspeth, and I think we know who wins this battle a high percentage of the time. If you're Kellogg, you got to draw a Hero's Downfall, like right now.
Yep. Hero's Downfall, possibly a third Blood Baron is going to do it, but not really, although there it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, but I mean, your soldier tokens are pretty good. They're not great, and here's the big thing here, is that Fabiano among those lands, and the Blood Baron is actually pretty good, but among those lands for Fabiano, there is a Mutavault, which means Mutavault can go on chump duty for one turn on the Blood Baron, assuming that Kellogg does not draw a removal spell, and then Elspeth can actually just minus, yes, it'll have to die, but Elspeth can minus to take care of the Blood Baron, and then Fabiano is okay. He's not great, but he's okay.
And so he's going to go to his lands and tap another 6 and play another copy of Elspeth after making the tokens to be able to -3 yet again to answer another Blood Baron.
All right. We're going to see if this turn pays off for Fabiano.
Well, there's only one Blood Baron left in the deck, so see how that turns out for him. Lifebane Zombie stayed in the deck, and there's an Ashiok. Not able to be discarded to the Lifebane Zombie. Gerard's Elspeth is going to remain on the board. In come 6 1/1s, which are the same toughness as all of Andrew's
I think
creatures.
he drew a Blood Baron. Jeez.
So there's a Blood Baron.
3 more tokens are going to come and play, and yeah, sure. This is, I was going to say the Lifebane Zombie can take care of Blood Baron, but it actually can't because Intimidate, you're looking at a black creature there in Blood Baron Viscopa, and that is going to do it. So Gerard Fabiano is going to defeat Andrew Kellogg 2-1, but there is so much to this match that I really, really, really like.
Yeah.
Outside of just, watching these two players play, this is a huge game of misinformation.
Absolutely.
On Fabiano's side of just,